Hey there, welcome back. Let's go. Hey there, hi. So, today we will continue the process of making the Citadel, and today is the texturing part of it. Again, plan is pretty simple. Today it'll be to, okay, I'm saying today a lot of times. uh, Go into Blender, export the model, bring it into a Substance Painter, and do the texturing there. I am not going to unwrap it within Blender because it's too much of a work for a model that uh, for an asset that's going to be pretty far back. So yes, let's begin without any further ado. And I hope everyone's in here. Okay, so this was the model that we made last time, and yeah, as you can see, version 2 have to change the naming over here a little bit, so making sure the antenna is covered. Cube, this was the sluice gates, so let's just rename again. When you're working with, I mean, there aren't a lot of pieces in this one, but if you're working on a model that has several parts, it's always better to name them. There's no harm in naming them, although at first it might seem a bit off. Okay, what was this? Tower thingy. 1. Let's just rename everything to go well with the collection. Again, you can use any type of naming you like. I'm just used to using underscores certain times. There are times I use camel case, but yeah. So couple of changes before we export the whole thing. So let's just save this file with the changes we made to the name. Now let's actually save this as, and version 3, and why version 3. So now before we export, there are a few changes to the model that we have to make, mainly being applying all the modifiers and applying the scales. So first let's apply the scales. All transforms, keep doing that, I guess, for all of them, and that's it. Now the transforms are applied. It's time to start applying the modifiers. Again, I'm pressing Control A over here, and applying the one on the top. It's always, not always, it is the correct way to do, by applying the top ones first. So apply the modifiers, and that's it. So now our model is ready for texturing and for all of that. So over here you might have seen the cutters. This is the byproduct of what happens when you use the box cut add-on. You can delete that now since we have no use for it. Okay, and now let's save it. So this is our final model that is completely applied with the scales, everything in place. So now let's so for the actual texturing process itself, we are going to be texturing each of them separately because that's much more easier. So let's first start with the actual main tower itself, since that's the biggest one. Go into file, export, and I usually like to do it in FBX. Most of the files I import and export are using FBX. I have been using Alembic files a lot since I kind of switch between Blender and Cinema 4D from time to time. So Alembic is a very nice way to import everything, and it imports your cameras and animations and everything as well. But for this, it's just the model that I need to get textured. FBX is fine. So we'll actually put it outside, and that's the tower. So I'm trying to match the naming that I'm using for the objects within the scene collection, the same name as the ones I'm giving for the FBX file. Again, limit to the selected objects, otherwise the entire thing will be exported. Even though I did apply everything, it is always nice to just keep the apply transform on. Animations not required since we don't have any. Other than that, let's export. Okay, now we have exported that. We won't be coming back into this. Let's jump into Substance Painter. And Substance Painter, for those who don't know or don't use this, it is an amazing set of application by Adobe, and it's very nice for texturing and all of that. So let's just open this, and again there are a few changes to be made here. In the template, obviously we are going to be using PBR metallic roughness with algorithmic tick down, and that's what we need. The file, what it's asking for is the 3D model, so we choose the tower. And document resolution, let's go with 4K because 4K textures are always nice. And that's about it. Normal map format, DirectX. If you don't have DirectX, OpenGL works, but I think it might be a bit slower. And auto unwrap ticked on. Even though we have no cameras, it's fine, you can keep it on or off. And that's about it. We can click OK, and we have our file here. Now navigation in this is very similar to Cinema 4D, so people who have used Maya or Cinema 4D will find it very easy to use. Again, so if you look over to the left side, we have a 3D view, and towards the right we have the uh, texture that has been unwrapped. Now there are two ways of painting in Substance Painter. One is by taking the paint, and let's actually change the color so that it's visible. So like, let's go with something like red. And one way of doing it is just by painting over here like that, and it in turn adds the paint over here into your texture. And this is the way I'm going to be using for this method, although there are better ways to do it. I think it's fine right now. So yeah, that's the first method. The other method, obviously, just by changing things here, we are actually adding in details in here, so it works both ways. Okay, so let's get back into our references, and again it's pretty similar to what usually is seen in Star Wars, which is the Chevy Chev textures and all of that. So since we are not using I can't call it shabby chef because we are not using the noise texture from Blender. We are going to be actually texturing it. So these square thingies, that's pretty predominant with how things are in Blend. I mean, in Star Wars. So yeah, a mix of gray and dark off white, and yeah, that's what we are going to try to emulate. Again, it's not a big deal if we are not extremely close to how it is in the actual model for Rogue One, because again, this is a fan film. This is something you do for yourself. If you feel like you need to be extremely accurate to that, then you can always hop over to Photoshop, and you know, after you have unwrapped it in your 3D program, you can just go into Photoshop and be extremely accurate about how it's been modeled, I mean textured. And but I don't think I need that, so I'm going to just paint over it. Also, what I'm going to be using for this is a digital pen. If people have it, it's a good thing to have it when you're texturing, but that's what I'm going to be using. I'm actually opening it out of the box now because I just forgot to plug it in. And yeah, again, the whole process of actually uh, adding it in, like the textures, painting it inside Substance Painter, is a pretty straightforward process, and you can do that using your normal mouse, just click and point. But it's much easier if you have one of these digital pens, like from Wacom or from Huion. And that's it. I've connected in the digital pen. Okay, and we're good to go. So yeah, now I'm moving the cursor using my digital pen. I did not set this up. Okay, let's go back into Substance Painter, and yeah, where do we start? Where do we start? Okay, let's start over here with the actual model itself. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we are actually going to be using some square textures for this. So go back in here, and in alpha we can actually search for square, and the one that we are going to be using is this one, the square texture. So what this is going to do is I just move in here and apply this. Just a sec. Just bring down the angle to 0, and that's it. So when we click this, it's visible that it's red squares. So we are going to change the colors for it. Again, we can go down here. Okay, instead of changing the color, what we can actually do is change the material it's going to be actually projecting on. So within Substance Painter, you actually get a lot of textures and a lot of materials. So what I can do is just take one of these, like silicon coat. That looks good, but not accurate enough. This looks nice. Steel, rust and wear. Steel painted. Again, we don't need a lot of roughness. If you look at the actual references itself, uh, Star Wars models are usually not that reflective. They are more towards the matte rough style of doing things. But then again, if you look at the sides and see how the light bounces off, there are certain aspects of it that is actually reflective like metal, which it's supposed to be, because you can't build something like this without a lot of metal. Okay, let's choose let's choose steel rust, and when we apply it, it looks like a normal texture, but if you actually move around, you'll see that it's actually a proper texture. So this is the method we will be using. So let's just go back and first look at how certain elements of it looks. Let's start with the top black bar like area. So okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Back. And that's it. Okay, it's good enough. And change the alpha back into dot. Brush. Always. Okay. Okay, what I'm actually trying to find is the default brush that we use. Okay, let's just go alpha and there we go, found it. Okay, now what we're going to do is paint it over here again. Let's just bring it down, click, and again this part's done. We can just take this part over here and hit shift, just hold it in, and there we go. Okay, again, this won't matter much when we look at it from far away, so I feel like that's the only excuse I'm giving myself for this atrocity. Now let's shift here, sorry, click and click. Let's go. Okay, should do it. Do the same thing on this side. Okay. That's about it. And again, if there are issues, okay, I'm adding in the radial symmetry now like an idiot, so we are going back and erasing this. Okay, so that okay, select the hardness to 0.5, much better. We select this and click, drag, perfect. It's okay, that's okay. Same thing here, click, sorry, click and boom, done. Click and there we go, and that's it. Now you just paint it in. You can increase the size and just paint it in. And thanks to radial symmetry, I mean mirror symmetry, it's here on the other side as well. That's it. That's about it for the material over here. Now if there are spots that are concerning, just fuse and paint it up again. Here. Again, some people really enjoy this process. I'm not that big of a fan. That's just me. Okay. Now, if you want to erase this bump right here, what we can do is select here and shift and bam. That should do it. That looks good. Okay. Let's go with that. Now, let's look at the rest of it. Again, we'll add multiple layers of scratches and imperfections, but later on. Again, when it comes to big buildings such as these, scratches are not usually what we find. It's more like grunge textures, so we'll try to use some grunge textures in it, obviously. And now let's use some lighter colors, paint over the rest of it. Again, multiple weird designs is the scheme of things. Let's go with that. So first I'm just mapping out certain type of textures, I mean tiles of sort, I guess. So what I'm actually doing is choose. Okay, uh, again we're not using this color, we'll probably use this one. And for the areas that seem completely white, we'll use some sort of basic material from Blender, and we'll add a multiply node to mix the texture with the material on the surface of the building. But yeah, or if that doesn't work, we can just reduce the opacity and add like a grunge layer towards the bottom of it. Now we don't need this layer. Let's delete this. Sorry, wrong layer. Okay. Now let's start. Again, this is not the correct way to texture. Always unwrap your assets. I'm just doing this because I don't have the time or the energy to do it. Okay. Start this off. Okay, now let's paint it in. And the reason why that happens is okay. Let's go with a different type material, and for this that would be concrete. Again, concrete has a very weird look to it, so Something a bit more. I mean, no. Let's go with something like. Actually, let's go with this, and we can reduce. I mean, change the color. Let's go with something like that. Yeah, I think that'll look good. Let's try it. Yes, that looks good. I mean, looks okay from here. Yeah, that's okay. We'll go with that. Or we could try steel rust and change that color. We can change the color to something a bit more light. Let's try this. I mean, the thing with steel is that. Okay, actually, you know what? Let's go with this. A bit low. Let's bring that down. Okay, actually, let's bring it up. That looks good. That looks good. Let's go with that. Okay. Okay. This is the color we'll be using, which is this, and that's for the darker ones. The lighter ones, we'll figure something out. Again, this. Let's do the dark one of them. And let's add in another layer. Let's name this slightly darker squares. Okay, let's go with this. Before we do that, I will go and grab something, and I'll be back in a minute or so. And we are back. Sorry about that. So, let's Yeah, so now actually let's just save this first. Completely forgot about that. Citadel, let's go with textures, and let's actually create a separate folder for tower. And let's name this as tower and hit save. Okay, now let's continue the texturing. Okay, does look a bit dark compared to the rest of it. I mean, okay, that's okay. And let's go back here. It's a bit more sharp around the edges than what I thought, so let's actually erase this. And I can actually feel my computer slowing down for the first time because I'm texturing at the same time live streaming this. So you know what, let's actually reduce the color a little bit more, and let's go with that. Yes, that looks, I mean, let's actually reduce it a little bit more. Okay, that looks good. And now let's start. Let's actually reduce the pointing a little bit more because of that. Okay, paint it out. At this point, I'll just switch over to this. Again, this is the point where having a pen will help you out because uh, when it comes to the actual texturing, it's always better to have something that is a bit more precise compared to mouse. But yeah, then again, mouse is actually something nice because a lot of artists prefer mouse over tablets, and I do understand that. But yeah, that looks good. Now hit that that okay. Again, the more details you add into the texture, the more believable it looks. I mean, the more video game believable it looks. If you want to actually create something that closely resembles how it looks in real life, it's always better to follow the traditional methods of UV texturing. This it's fine because we are not going to be having any close-up shots using the Citadel, so doing a little bit of this and that works over here. Okay, let's add some down here, here, actually, that should do. And I was actually pretty impressed with the live stream yesterday, how it turned out. It was much better than my expectations, and I actually got to complete a lot of work. I usually don't sit that long when it comes to modeling something, but yesterday it was really nice. But yeah, that's about it. And few over here. That looks okay, not that bad. Hmm. Okay. Okay, again, the lines that might be visible is mainly because of how it looks. Okay, so as you can see, there are certain lines that are on top of it. Actually, they're not supposed to happen, but since I'm working with textured materials over here, it tends to work out that way. But it's actually a blessing in disguise because nothing's ever that perfect when it comes to creating stuff. And the Empire, like if you're looking at the story point of view, the Empire was not the best of the builders when it came to their places and the security that they offered. Anyways, this is this area. I'll come to this area in a while. Let's just finish up a few more tiling over here and towards the top, and we'll be back. And down here. Again, if there's anyone watching and hasn't ever used Substance Painter, trust me, you're missing out on something because Substance Painter is very, very good at what it does. And yeah, and it is the industry standard if I'm not wrong. Like, I heard that Quixel's mixer is pretty good, but it does not compare to the levels at which Substance Painter is used in the industry. But it's changing. I heard it's changing. So certain parts. looking weird because does look a bit weird. Again, if there are issues like these, like you can see these white spots over here, it's not a big deal. We can always put it back into Photoshop and change it a little bit. So let's leave it like that for now. We might use Photoshop after this because there are certain parts of the painting that I would like to change a little bit, but okay, let's add a few here. Okay, yeah. Hmm. And here there are some issues. We can paint these out properly again in Photoshop, but for now let's do it the way I think it has to do a little bit with the way things are. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, I think it has to do with the size of the actual material. Let's change that. Pointy there. Okay. Okay, let's add a bit here. And the reason why it is actually not preferred to do, like the textures are not preferred to be made in this format, is because there are times when the orientation might change because of the view in which you are. So that happens. It's a bit of a problem. So again, there's this issue with the entire painting itself. So let's just come back here. Uh, let's close the Python console. Go down here. Shape is fine. The angle is a bit off. Let's bring down the angle. And that does not seem to help it. Bring this to 90. Is that helping it out? Little bit, but not too much. 180, not 180. Let's bring it to 20. See if that helps. No, it does not. So 5. Let's bring this to 0. And stroke opacity 100. Close 100. Space coloring. I think it's the hardness, and that's probably why, but again, I don't know. Okay, let's do this again. That done. Again, there seems to be some sort of an issue with the material, and now it's back to normal. I don't know, it does that sometimes, I guess. Okay. Okay, let's actually work, try to work as much of this out as much as possible. Again, we can change this up in Photoshop later on, so it's not that big of a deal, but better to finish up as much as possible when available. So that should do for now. Okay, in here there are few issues, but it's fine. And let's do a little bit down here. Again, not a bit too much, but just a teeny weeny bit. Do it. Just paint that in. Yeah, yeah, good. Okay. And from far back, that does not look that bad, but yeah, thanks to the mirroring, it's here as well. Again, Star Wars buildings are not usually symmetrical when it comes to the square-like thingies on them, but it's actually fine for this one because for most of the shots, I don't think we'll even see the other half. So most of the shots will be of this angle, so that's fine. And let's continue down here. Oops. again, the thing about Substance Painter and any other uh, program that is generally used in such high level pipelines is that it is extremely power hungry, just like Maya. So if that's the thing, like if you're a Maya user, it's always it's kind of a known fact that you have a very powerful PCs, because when using Maya you have to end up using either Octane, Arnold, or Redshift. Again, these are extremely power hungry rendering engines, especially uh, Arnold. And for studios like Pixar, they use RenderMan, and RenderMan is a CPU rendering engine, which makes it much slower and much more power hungry compared to some of these. So yeah, that's why I kind of ended up really liking Blender, and that's because Blender doesn't need those prerequisites. If you don't have a very powerful system, Blender will still work in yours. I know people who use Blender on their old MacBook Airs, which does not even have the required amount of GPU to even operate something like Maya. So yeah, Blender is very nice and stuff like that. Like Blender is like the jack of all trades. You can do everything in Blender, but when it comes to certain things like motion graphics or integration into actual production pipelines, there are certain issues with Blender, and there is a lack of support for Blender actually when it comes to, so like the main reason why production companies don't like using Blender is mainly because they don't have any technical support available. I think that is changing now because of Blender cloud deployment, but again, not really sure of how it is. Then again, technical artists will have to learn how these new things work in Blender. So yeah, well, the point I was trying to make is that that's the thing about things like Substance Painter and Maya and all. They're extremely slow. So that's why when I even press the undo button, I have to wait for like a minute before the actual uh, action takes place, which is fine for now, I guess. But I don't know. I'll have to try Quixel Mixer once. Okay, that should be. And after the texturing part of this is complete, like after I'm done with most of it, so let's one sec. I'll just see this once. That doesn't look half bad. So I think these lines over here are going to be the easiest to make. But yeah, and that's something there. Okay, I think we'll be done with the tower pretty soon. After that, I don't know if I should actually live stream the rest of it, because it's going to be very boring to look at me texturing everything else, and it's going to be very tedious. So I'll probably stop after I texture this whole tower once, and we might have to continue the texturing on like in another video to complete the rest of it. So yeah, I'll probably I did not expect it to take this long, but then again, texturing is a very tedious process. Okay, let's actually do the rest of it. Okay, where was I? What was I talking about? Yeah, actually, after this stream ends, the texturing one, we will probably go on a 1 week break. Not that anyone is watching, it's just that I have exams starting this week, so it might be a bit difficult to manage live streaming for long hours. So I don't know, I'll probably live stream for some of the easier papers, but the one on Monday is a bit tough. So I won't be there for a week maybe. Then again, no one is there, doesn't matter. Again, for the next stream, I might already have like completed the rest of the textures for the tower base and for the antenna and for the edges. But after that, the process of cleaning it out in Photoshop and all of that, I'll probably do it on the live stream with everyone else, and then we can add them in Blender, check it out, and after that we will actually uh, import it onto Unreal Engine and see if it actually works. But before all of that, we have to finish the texturing. Okay. There we go. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Again, towards the lower parts, I don't think we need to texture much, but let's do it anyways. So, going to add one huge texture over here, which will let's add in that. Here. And the load times for the undo action is very slow in Substance. Okay, let's do this. Somewhere over here, two down here, two over here, and up here, two over here, and down there. That's it. Let's actually clean up some of this. Okay, now let's increase this up and paint it across. Oh man, I have to be very careful with the way I'm modeling this because otherwise certain textures will just end up in the dump. There we go. Done. That's it. Looks pretty okay over here. Actually, I think I made it a bit too big, but it's okay. It's fine. Now, and it's automatically saving. Let's add in those grills. Right around here. This is the most easiest part of it, I think. Again, very small grills. So let's actually reduce a little bit more. Go with this. Since those are grills, we'll go with black stripes. Squares, black stripes. And actually, let's remember the color sequence we actually used for the brush, because if you forget that, it's of no use. Color, 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 color. Color's supposed to be here. Not the attributes, base color. Okay, metal color. Yeah. Let's just note that in there. Actually, we might need it later on, so I'll just take notes. Actually, just take new note and add it in there. That's it. Okay, and close it. That's it. Now let's go back to the actual colors that they were. Let's actually make a new paint layer for that. Let's call it grills, and start by painting it in. Let's go with steel and rust again, and boom. Actually shift. Okay. We can add just one here. Again, if there are issues with how it looks, just take the eraser, bring it down, and let's cut it over here. Should do it same over here. And for these black grills, what we are actually going to do is we'll create a normal map for it, and we'll uh, negate it downwards, so that in the actual render itself, the grills will be actually reacting to light in a way that it's a bit depressed into the building, and that's it. So few more, actually four more, and is that thing closer. And ideally you should have, like, if you're making textures for a close-up shot, it's always better to have it in 8K textures, but uh, until and unless there's an you know issue with the way it looks with 4K, it's better not to go for 4K textures, since it's better not to go for 8K textures, because there are times where 8K textures just slow down your PCs for no reason. So it's always nice to go for something that is a bit more performance friendly rather than the actual texture itself. Okay, that looks okay. If you actually look over here, these textures don't appear anywhere. Uh, okay, they're there. Now let's add in the big ones. Let's go for one. Sorry. Again, I'm making it a bit bigger than what they are because I will be erasing and cutting off certain parts of it. So that everything looks good. Yikes. Not supposed to happen. Again, the reason why I brought up the talk about 4K and 8K is because you see this aliasing that occurs towards the edges, and that's mainly because of uh, the resolution and the way the brush size and the brush orientation is. So fine lines, good enough. That should do it. Now let's erase the extra parts, and that okay. That's it. Little bit more. We'll be done. And I wasn't actually expecting this process to be this tedious, but yeah, bit closed off, bit, yes. Again, choose, add, and let's go with straight ones now. Let's make a few down here. Bring it back. And this is where making it in a different layer will actually help us, is because if I paint on top of this now, you can just erase it out later on, which we are going to do now. And there we go. Yeah. Let's actually erase this a little bit over here, intentionally of course. Okay, and over here let's erase it. Okay, get it out like this. And over here let's just see, it works perfectly. I can just erase out the parts I don't want. And let's actually remove the last one. That's about it. Looks good. Okay, that looks good. Now let's finish up the rest of it, basically with few actually. Okay, let's finish up the rest of it by just now this is where us noting down that number came in handy. We are going to add a few more um, patterns over here in here to make it look a bit more into the actual design. So for that we'll go back to slightly darker squares which is the layer, and go into the, again I keep losing the color or the metal color thingy for the brush. Again, choose steel rust. And there it is. So we chose the color in sticky notes, and there it is. Just copy that and paste it in. Done. Back into grills. Let's actually add in few design elements in here. And yes, the color is a bit different, and that's because we're actually doing in the wrong layer. Here, changes here. Yes, the color is a teeny tiny bit different, but I don't think it'll affect it that much. I mean, it does affect the look of the entire thing. It feels part of it for some reason, so I'm not going to change it. Okay. And the reason for it to look that way is because we had changed the roughness a little bit, and we didn't change how it looks in here, so we could do that now. But for some reason I just like it over here a little bit, but if required we could have done that. You know what, let's actually do it because it's kind of taking it out of place. Yeah. And let's paint over it again. And there is a bit of an issue of uh, textures going haywire in here, so color noise, that down, let's bring that up. Let's bring the actual brush a little bit bigger. That looks much better. Okay, that looks okay. Actually make it a bit better over here. Hi area. Uh, okay, that's about it. Add in a few more in here, which we can do. Again, extremely tedious process. Getting really sick of it now. And again, this was something that we could have easily done in Photoshop, by using shapes. We could have just unwrapped the whole thing and done it using shapes, but then again, certain times in that, and this is probably just me, I have had issues with how the scales actually align. Like for this, for example, I would not be able to paint this out properly even if I had some seams in it, and that's like for sure. So for me, this method works. Someone else, some other method might work. So do whichever method feels right to you, is what I'd say. Let's finish this up. Hmm. Okay, that's it. Okay, that's okay. That's it. It's a bit off from what it was in the actual color that we used, but it's fine. For now, it's okay. Uh, Now let's actually finish up the top part of this, which we will do in a while, and I'll be back in a minute or so once again. So yeah. And we are back once again. Um, Now I'll finish up the top part of this. Again, once the texturing of this entire building is done, I will complete the texturing process for the rest of it on my own, as in for the tower base and the tower antenna. As I said last time, like a while before, was that this is a tedious process. Streaming through the entire thing would just be tedious for me and for anyone out there who's watching it. So just let's finish it up, finish this whole process of it, and once this part is done, I will end the stream. After that, do the rest of them in my own free time, and in the next live stream, which will be once again the texturing live stream, like a second part of it, and I will show uh, the changes I made, and we might, not sure of it, we might do some cleanup in Photoshop for just the textures that's towards the right over here, and yeah, the textures over here. So yeah, other than that, yeah, let's just start with it. Let's go back to the reference. Towards the top, I don't see much of the actual thing. Let's look at some of the other references actually. Uh, okay, it's just plain up there on the top. So I don't see any textures as such which we might need on top there. But if anything is there, you know what? Let's, instead of the basic white on top of it, let's actually add in a fill layer, and this fill layer will actually go towards the bottom. Let's actually change the color of this to something a bit more grayish, and a little bit more. That looks good. So if we have to add anything else, you know what, let's actually add some squares and some other lighter textures on top. It just feels weird not adding anything towards the top. Then again, yeah, actually let's add something towards the top. It feels very weird by not adding anything over there. So going back into slightly darker squares, um yeah, let's add some in here. Okay, so you know, for some reason it actually looks good with the darker one. Yeah, that, go with that. Okay, other than that, everything looks okay. And set, let's actually decrease the roughness of the fill layer. uh, so we'll go down here, go to, roughness. Let's not bring it to 1, let's bring it down. Yeah, much better. Okay. Just make it a little bit rough. Let's go with something like 0.65. Actually, more than the roughness, what needs to be changed is the metallic. Let's go with a 0.25. That. Choose that too. Let's just go with a 0.5 on this. Okay. Towards the top here. Finish adding again. Solid issue. Okay. Okay. Yep, that's what I was scared of. So there is a texturing issue, which is actually it's of use. Okay, very unprofessional thing to do. So since I did not unwrap it properly with seams, uh, I can't actually directly draw over here, but towards the corners I can draw, and that is a very unprofessional thing to do, but no one's gonna know, and that's fine with me. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, and boom, 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 and that should be it. Right over here we can actually just use this and bring it over here. Same thing, very carefully over here. Very careful with it. That's how no one will get to know. Because the top of it doesn't really even matter that much, because I don't think it's going to be ever even shown. So doesn't matter, that should do it. I just want some sort of pattern on it, because it's better than having no pattern on it. So yeah, let's remove the seam. That looks okay, not the best, but it's okay, and it'll do for now. If we want, we can add something towards the back. Let's actually add something towards the back. Okay, Not that Indian design, but some more textures. Let's go with those. The okay, for the back, let's not add mirrored seams since that does not look good. So seams are out. Let's just add some normal shapes that. And 1 second, I'll be back in a moment. Verunu. And we are back. Now add those in. Let's actually first finish up the patterns we are going to be making for this. And that's done, we can do the rest of it. It will be much easier to do. Let's overlap some of them. That usually happens. Let's actually add that overlap somewhere over here. We might later on, not now. So we're adding some pretty big ones over here since doesn't really matter because the back won't be that visible anyways. So and okay, let's first paint this much in. That's done. Let's finish up a little bit more. Add a bit more. There we go. Yikes. This is probably the most boring amount of texturing I've ever done, but it's for a good cause. Once this is done, and once all the compositing will be done, it should look really, really good. So, I mean, at least I'm hoping it looks good. Again, if this process and like if I had to do this process and I did not have a pen in my hand, I would have gone crazy because this is a very intensive process when it comes to things. So that's it. Yeah. Oops. And done. Ah, you know what's more bothersome than the texturing is the waiting for the undo button to actually action itself. Usually doesn't take this long, but it's fine. Okay, thank God. It's not. I'll be extra careful for not doing that. Let's save it once because I feel like I've been relying on autosave for a while. But yeah. Okay. One more thing I think I have to look at would be the settings and where it's being cached. So let's go into general settings. Yes, as I thought, the cache directory is in here and it's pretty much filling up my cache for sure. Yep. So it's fine for now. It's not much I can do about it, but yeah. There we go. Final one. I mean, I could add a few more actually. After that, it's done. Let's add just one big one over here if possible. And we'll probably finish it off with that. Just one more actually. Okay, now let's add in one last one and hopefully we can wrap this up. This one more over here. Man, being a texture artist must be like very hard. Like, I don't think I have the ability to sit like this for God knows how long and do this for a long time. But yeah, that's about it. I think, no. Okay, let's actually stop this at that because I don't think I have the willpower to go with more than this. So yeah, texture a little bit. Let's save this. Uh, yeah. Now we'll do the rest of the texturing. At least I'll do the rest of the base texturing for the other ones soon, and that'll probably be off screen. But for the smoothing and a little bit of polish that I'll have to give later on, I'll definitely finish up that part in the next live stream, which probably might be next week. I don't know. Then again, I don't have to schedule streams or anything because there's literally no one watching the streams. But yeah, like other than one or two people, I don't think there are others who view the streams. So that's about it for this stream, I guess. And I'll probably do one soon, very soon, hopefully. So yeah, uh, that's about it. Thank you if there were anyone watching this constantly, this painful painting process. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see everyone in the next live stream. So bye bye.